As audiences of the modern world, we are no strangers to evil characters and villains in our media. From those motivated by greed,
$1 million.
those who seek revenge,
I only wanted to help. And what did you say to me?
and those who claim to be sacrificing for the greater good.
They would all cease to exist, and I call that mercy.
Their negative actions have obvious, logical reasons behind them, to a certain extent.
Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
But the villains that have stuck with us
You just couldn't let me go.
have often been those that seem to have a completely inverted moral compass.
You're looking for me.
Ones that operate from a detached world of their own. These characters baffle us. We can't understand them through our own logic and morals. Therefore, the only way we can rationalize their existence is to say that they are simply and inherently evil. And this is where I want to talk about him, the weird, crazy, scary, Chad, good-looking, and sad recruiter from Squid Game. In this video, I want to explore who this recruiter is and why I think he is a pure embodiment of evil. By now you've probably seen Squid Games, or at least know about its stories. It's been literally everywhere, so spoilers ahead. Anyways, let's get started. This behemothly popular of a show, a biting social allegory that critiques both the people's willingness to do anything for money and the capitalist systems that profit off of and enable this cruelty. The show is filled with villains, from the Frontman to the VIPs who enjoy watching and betting on these games. But out of all of them, the recruiter to me stood out despite his short screen time. We know so little about him, yet we are still so drawn to him. So let's see what he does, and why is he so interesting? The recruiter's job is to recruit people. He goes to the subway stations and finds people with crippling debt. He puts up a friendly face and then plays an innocent game of dakji to smack the paper square and win money, or he'll smack the hell out of you. He entices these people with the allure of quick and easy money for the price of a little pain. What's pain to these guys, right? Their lives are already crappy enough. This conditioning makes it easier for him to then bring these people into the real games, where he knows they'll most likely just die. So you could say his job is pretty evil, but you might be wondering, this doesn't make him the embodiment of evil, right? What about the people who hire him to do this job? People who actually run the games. Don't they have just as, if not even more, inherent evil in them? But think about this. What kind of people would they actually hire to do this type of job, knowingly bringing innocent people to their deaths? Someone who enjoys this. Someone who has absolutely no guilt. So how does he compare to his bosses? How similar or different are their backstories? Whereas the Frontman and Ilnam could have held a little glimmer of hope for humanity and life sometime long ago, the recruiter seems to have a much more deeply rooted sense of hatred. Despite being younger than both of his bosses,
이제부터 게임을 하겠습니다.
the idea of bringing death and agony seems to satisfy him the most out of all three villains, as showcased in how they each retell their own stories. For the Frontman, we learned that he had a pregnant wife who was dying of a terminal disease that required a lot of money for treatment.
저 와이프가 많이 아픕니다. 급성 간경화 때문에 간이식을 해야 되는데.
나는 네 형수가 아파서 힘들어할 때 해준 게 하나도 없다.
And that's why he joined the games in the first place. And against all odds, he won the games, only to find out that she had died while he was playing the games. After the horrors of the game and losing his only hope for life, his wife, he takes the plunge and starts working for the games. Thus, his cruelty was likely born through the hopelessness of all the death and violence that he experienced in the games and in the real world. And for Ilnam, the creator, it's likely to assume that he was some kind of a loan shark who amassed his fortune through exploitation of the people he eventually put into these games.
난 돈을 굴리는 사람이야.
돈 얼마나 쉽게 벌길래 이런 짓을 하는 거야?
And the more money he made, the less meaning life had.
돈이 너무 많으면은 아무리 뭘 사고 먹고 마셔도 결국 다 시시해져 버려.
So together, he and his clients created the game so that they can actually feel something again. All they wanted was to have a little bit of fun.
재미로 그런 짓을 시켰다고?
As he got older, he was taken by nostalgia and wished to recapture the magic he felt as a kid playing his childhood games. And that's why he joined the games himself later on. But the years of violent greed has changed him forever, so that even if he tries to go back to being a child, he couldn't do it innocently anymore.
기억도 나지 않던 오래전 일들이 떠올랐어. 그렇게 재미있었던 거 정말 오랜만이었어.
Bloodshed has become a part of who he is. He has lost the ability to see any kindness in humanity, even in his last moments, making a bet with Gi-hoon, trying to prove to Gi-hoon that kindness doesn't exist in the world. Therefore, Ilnam's evil was born through his immense greed in his early life, and how all the violence he witnessed erased all his hope for any sort of kindness in humanity. What these two share in common is that they both have a past self, a self which they lost through their pursuit of money. This means a part of who they truly are might still exist somewhere, as a deeply repressed version that they try to hide. We could see this through the fact that both of them wear masks to hide their identities to a certain extent. It's a visual barrier that separates who they are deep down and who they've become. For the recruiter, he lives and breathes his job, and he even goes out of his ways to prove his point, out in the public,
전부 다요?
almost to justify why he should be killing these people. We can see that he's proud of his actions. There doesn't seem to be any shame or guilt or any fear that he's doing the wrong thing. Like, there is no incentive from his bosses to do this. His ass is not doing his job. And anytime he's not doing his job, he's playing some kind of game that gambles between life and death, whether that's rock, paper, scissors, or Russian roulette. From him, we don't hear a sad backstory. Instead, his story revolves entirely around his experience working for the games.
내가 여기까지 어떻게 왔을 것 같아요?
As if the games were the only thing that made him who he is today.
어릴 때부터 게임장에서 성균 씨 같은 사람들 시체를 수도 없이 치우고 태웠죠.
He continually tells himself these people are trash that needs to be taken out.
이것들은 사람이 아니다. 이 세상에서 아무짝에 쓸모없는 쓰레기다.
Though he doesn't explain why he started working in these games, through his story, we could probably guess that he didn't have the best family life.
그런데 어느 애였더라. 게임에서 탈락한 놈을 쏘려고 하는데 이게 얼굴이 낯이 익은 거예요. 누군지 알아요? 우리 아빠.
From a young age, growing up in a dysfunctional family with a father he probably hated, going to so much debt that he eventually joined the games, deeply affected how he viewed others. Therefore, working for the games gave him an outlet and a sense of control he never had.
저에게 총을 주더라고요. 기분이 나쁘지 않았어요. 생전 처음 내 존재를 인정받은 것 같아서.
He killed all these people that were just like his trashy father, until finally one day, he actually does kill his father.
우리 아빠가 갑자기 내 앞에 서 있는 거예요.
And along with that, all the doubts he had for his job.
우리 아빠가 막 살려달라고 눈물을 흘리면서 날 간절하게 쳐다보는데 딱 한 방울 쐈어요. 이마 한가운데. 그리고 깨달았죠. 이 일이 내 적성에 잘 맞는구나.
Hatred and disgust for this class of people have become so ingrained in him, cemented by working in these games, he simply finds pleasure in taking out the trash. Trash who are losers of the game, losers in life. He really wants to believe that what he's doing is right. Despite Gi-hun's attempt to jab at the recruiter's ego,
너 같은 하수인 너브랭이랑 할 얘기가 아니야. 네 주인을 데려와. 넌 그때도 지금도 그놈들의 개일 뿐이야.
they failed to affect him. It's too late. All the logic and morality of this world can't face someone whose mind has been twisted since they were too young to know better.
저랑 게임 한번 하시죠.
But in his final moments, we see something a little different. He has fear. He and Gi-hun plays an altered version of Russian roulette, where instead of spinning the chamber after every shot, they don't spin, making the chances for death grow after every shot, until one of them has to die.
너도 다른 놈들이랑 똑같은 쓰레기야. 겁이 나고 생각이 많아지는 것도 당연하죠. 게임의 룰이고 뭐고 방아쇠를 한 번 아니면 두 번만 당기면 저놈의 연상을 날릴 수 있어.
When the recruiter is the one who's faced with that final bullet, we see a man who's so used to seeing the fear in other people's eyes become his own target. Faced with death, he has a choice: to cheat the game and shoot Gi-hun, or to shoot himself, fair and square, just like he's always been. We get this poetic shot where the recruiter is able to show both terrified for his life and a collected calmness all in one face, exacerbated by the blue and red light that splits his face. Part of him wants to live, and part of him wants to stay true to who he is.
그래. 귀죽이고 뭐고 이제 이 방아쇠를 한 번만 당기면 날 죽일 수 있어.
In the face of death, he's very tempted, but soon something clicks in his mind.
이거 하나만 인정해. 넌 그저 가면을 뒤집어 쓰고 주인님이 시키는 대로 뛰고 짖고 꼬리나 흔드는 개새끼라는 걸.
In that moment, he realizes that he is also a piece of trash. Just another loser to the game. In the end, he stood by his twisted rules, unshakable in his resolve, because all he knows are the rules to the game. All he has is what the games have made him into. No more, no less. A pure embodiment of evil. He doesn't seem to have another identity that he's hiding. Or maybe that he's just hiding it too well. Maybe deep down beneath his calm composure, there is a child who's scared of his father's failures, ashamed, and joins the games to find comfort in the only way he knows how. What could also be said is that the recruiter is just another type of victim of the system. They brought him into the games at such a young age, much like the young officers we see later.
엄마 아빠가 너 이러고 다니는 건 아시냐?
They strip away all their good and mold them while they're young, turning them into dogs of their own, loyal servants who believe wholeheartedly that what they're doing is the right thing. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the recruiter from Squid Game. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you guys have any other thoughts about The Recruiter or any other shows you'd like me to explore, please feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to read them all. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.